Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today I'm bringing you a Kickstarter preview video of Dark Tomb, The Ice Chasers by Cause Games. Now, this is the third game in the Dark Tomb series, and last year, about 9 months ago, I had the privilege of covering Bloodthorn Island. Now, Dark Tomb is a pocket-size RPG, a pocket-size dungeon crawl, a tiny little case with 3 or 4 different missions contained within, with 4 core characters, so you could play up to 5 players if you have someone running the enemies that you're facing down, and little pocket-sized chapters with a tied-together narrative that you can play through, either as one-off, solo, or multiplayer sessions, or as a full mini-campaign. Dark Tomb, The Crypts of Aurelian, was the first Dark Tomb game, and it did well. You know, a brand new, just launching indie publisher figuring out how to make a name in this space. And then we have the sequel, Dark Tomb Bloodthorn Island, with a higher rating on BGG, with something like, I want to say 9,000 backers on that last Kickstarter campaign, raised an insane amount for a small box, little pocket-size dungeon crawl. And The Ice Chasers is set to do that all over again. You have plenty of reasons to pay attention, plenty of things to discover and find out, and in this video I'm going to be highlighting how each one of these little campaigns, these little pocket-size RPGs, integrate with each other, the different features that make them unique in this world and unique between, well, what I have set up here on the table, and why there's a strong argument on behalf of you just tripling up, gathering them all at the same time. Now, for the record, this is a sponsored Kickstarter video, so we are working with Cause Games to bring you as much information as possible on Dark Tomb. However, I did end up filming a 4-player gameplay, the 3rd or 4th mission here in the Ice Chasers scenario, and that was not sponsored. And that was a ton of fun. So, later today we're going to be posting, or potentially later during this campaign, we're going to be posting that 4-player gameplay. So, get some information here. Follow the link in the top of the video description to swing over to the Kickstarter page, hit follow, hit back, or just stay engaged and learn more information by watching, reading, and, well, exploring all the content they have that they're highlighting over there on that page. And then, when you see it go up, take a look at that gameplay video. Because the amount of interaction, choice, and fun, the RPG, table talk, the scenario-specific, are we going to run, are we going to fight, are we going to flee for our lives while someone else is going helter-skelter after the treasure, and maybe potentially just scrape and survive by the skin of our teeth? The amount of immersion that this game created, this tiny little pocket-sized game created with 4 people sitting around the table, was pretty darn immense. I'd only really up to that point played Dark Tomb as a solo or 2-player game, and as a solo or 2-player game, it strikes all the chords that one would be looking for when it comes to a mini portable RPG system. So let me walk you through how the Dark Tomb functions and plays, and then what makes each one of these 3 titles unique, so you can decide which of these that you'd like to go ahead and purchase, or you can just go ahead and grab them all, because they are interchangeable. The 4 characters with the Crypts of Aurelian will match with the 4 characters of Bloodthorn Island, can be played in all of the scenarios in the Ice Chasers, and so on and so forth. These little sequential mini chapters can be played in order or out of order with any of the characters that you have in your deck, and when you own them all, you have an arsenal of 12 different core heroes or characters with their own unique abilities, their own unique party functionality that you could mix and match to play and explore. You could randomize to make whatever scenario it is you're diving into a little bit more challenging. And depending on how many players you're playing with, the way that they interact with each other, the way they team up and decide who's actually going to be taking the brunt of the attacks, who's going to be gathering the weapons, who's going to be risking the exploration, the flipping of cards, the delving into the depths of the tomb itself. All of that changes depending on what your party makeup is, and the more characters you have to play, the more opportunities you have to randomize or make choices around that. Along with that, if you're an RPGer, if you're a dungeon crawler, if you're someone who likes to take the components that you've been given and create your own journey, your own scenario, you have everything you need, from characters and character stats to their unique abilities and the way that they function on the board. You have a core, very approachable rule system, which we're about to go over. You have scenario guidelines and little bits of overview with world-impacting events that can happen, like the cave itself crumbling from beneath your feet and dealing damage to all the parties. And you have enemies and items that you can find throughout all of this journey, all of this narrative. So the components are here to craft, create, and bring with anything you're looking to do in the realm of a little mini one-shot RPG. So keep that in mind as we're talking. But that's not what they're advertising. That's not what they're talking about. That's not why they're encouraging people to explore and learn more about this game. Their gameplay stands up on its own. The Dark Tomb is a cooperative or a 4-versus-1 where one player is controlling the head enemy or the enemy AI of the dungeon itself. This game involves a set of characters going through one contained chapter, and then if you're playing through an extended narrative, resetting their stats so their health goes back to normal. The items that they found in that specific scenario don't carry on to the next, so each chapter is self-contained with the puzzle pieces and the components necessary, well, to find out and survive. You get to choose which characters you're playing, and on your turn you'll be taking a series of actions. Usually, you have 4 actions available, and you'll use your little cube to indicate which one of those actions you want to go ahead and utilize. You might be doing a move or an attack. You could be doing an interact or a gather. You could be crossing a pathway here and exploring the dungeon, opening up doorways, discovering items, and spawning monsters onto the table. After you and the other players have shifted their components around the board and explored, you'll then have the enemy AI, and you'll have the world events. The world events will be things that are happening as you explore. So it's a little bit of a timing mechanic, right? A pressure point to encourage you to not just dilly-dally, to not just tiptoe your way through and heal yourself fully as you try to accomplish whatever the mission is. And these missions vary. Some of them are survive till you hit a certain checkpoint. Some of them are find the right items and bring things together. Some of them deal with just survive and slaughter the best you can. The survive and slaughter ones, I have to say, are some of the more difficult scenarios throughout these decks, and some of the more satisfying when you actually win them, because you have to learn the creatures and the enemies that you're playing and kind of read the room a little bit to see where they might move, how their AI might work against you, and how you might desperately survive. Again, if you're lucky. There is a little bit of dice rolling in this game, and that's going to deal with the attack that you're doing. So if you are an enemy attack, you're going to be rolling to see if you overcome that enemy's or they overcome your own base defense, and then you have health that you're going to be taking down. Like here with the assassin, their base defense is 13. Their total health is based on the number of players we have playing, but if we were playing with a full party of 4, they'd start with 10 health, and their attack is going to be a range 3, could go in a straight line, can pierce through walls, and will deal 2 damage if it hits. Now, in order for them to hit, of course, they're going to be modifying it based off their dice roll, the stats that they have against my armor. So, for instance, my Anyo here has an armor of 13, so they would have to roll better than a 13 with all things considered and combined in order to deal me damage, which, in this case, they potentially still would. Yeah. Possibly. Okay, good. I'm not good at dice rolling. I don't even need to say I'm not good at surviving in this game, let alone dice rolling and manipulating the board itself. What I am very good at is running through, grabbing items and utilizing those to get some guaranteed hits off on the enemies that I'm facing down and trying to, well, potentially make it out with at least a touch of dignity and maybe just a morsel of blood remaining in my body. The gameplay flow is going to continue like that. You're going to be taking your actions. The world event is going to roll, determining what's happening potentially on the board, depending on the stage you're in and what the narrative has said is going on. you'll be gathering items, you'll be fighting enemies, and you'll be trying to accomplish the objective. Like, for instance, here at the beginning, we have the Azure Tavern. Stage 1, the doors of the tavern stand wide open, yet there is no sign of travelers or proprietors. As you pass through the entry, you hear a loud clatter of plates and then complete silence. Proceed with caution. Leave the trail map. Yeah, that's the objective that we're going for. That's what's going to be leading us down into Mission 2. Mission 2 leads us to Mission 3. Mission 3 leads us down to Mission 4. So, you're going to be moving, flipping cards, revealing enemies, and trying your best to survive. The objectives will change, and depending on the game that you're playing or the game system that you're playing, you'll have different mechanics that are introduced. For instance, here in the Ice Chasers campaign, I would say that your bosses and your enemies are a little bit more cutthroat. There's some status effects that deal some extra extended damage, and the characters that we're playing with have some unique twists to them that I've actually enjoyed a lot. Like, for instance, Osh here has Ermine, his lovely little ferret helper. He can revive him, but Ermine has the opportunity to, well, let's just say if you roll poorly enough, come back as your worst nightmare and your greatest enemy. If you're playing Dark Tomb, the original, the crypts of Aurelian, let me know when you can notice the dyslexia down below in the comments. You're going to be playing with a little bit more of a classic set of characters, of core heroes. We of course have our, what would be more of a rogue type, Helios. We have Odin, who's going to be a little bit more of the violent Viking with a battle axe, the barbarian. We have the dwarf with his lovely staff of magic here. Draven, he might not even be a dwarf, it's just that his name starts with a D, and so I've associated him with that class. And we have Aldrich, which is going to be the human warrior, your classic, more straightforward archetype. The campaign over here with the Crypts of Aurelian is going to deal with diving down, an adventuring part in a D&D RPG adventuring party, entering down into the crypts and discovering what mysteries lie beneath them. However, as we move over to Bloodthorn Island, things start getting a little bit more wild and weird. Characters start getting more complex. Enemies start becoming, well, villainous and cruel, to say the least. And we find ourselves aboard a lovely little vessel, rowing and sailing down a stream. If I grab some of these cards here, you can actually see that we're going to be moving down a water pathway, trying our best to reposition, survive, and fight our way to a finish line while everything's trying to consume us. Here with our characters in Bloodthorn Island, we have Vaughn Clay, who's going to be a falconist. We have Zan, who's going to be a ranger. Both of those are great at not needing to be close to their enemies in order to fight them. We have Forge, who's going to have this war mace. And we have Linara, who's a little bit more of the elven style, quick fighting, versatile character to play. So, we're opening up our battlefield, we're gaining some new characters and abilities, and we've added a new mechanic and a new adventuring element into the game system. So what does this third iteration add on? The Ice Changers are going to bring Osh and Ermine, woodchopper, hero, explorer, survivalist, who has his little ferret companion with him. We're going to have Dahlia, who has a lovely scythe, good at range and good at getting that ranged item back into her hands to continue dealing some effective damage. We have Shern, who is a little bit more of a mage, but a mage that has some risk, like a warlock-style character. There's a price to be paid for every spell that you cast. And Anyo is more of a elven queen or an ice princess. She has this beautiful dagger, and she can control creatures that are moving around the dungeon, but if and when she does so, she risks how effective her control can be and how effective her turn can be based on the dice that she rolls. So it's a little bit of a gamble if you really need them to react and respond in a specific way. That's the core breakdown. That's the general structure of Dark Tomb. So why do I think you need all three? Why would I recommend diving headfirst into it? Well, because there's a lot to love here. There's a whole variety, a whole collection of scenarios. There's characters that are interchangeable, and as you play through one set of scenarios, you understand the objective and the puzzle a little bit better, but revitalizing it with a new set of characters or a new squad of 1, 2, 3, or 4 different troops, different adventurers, different dungeon crawlers diving down into that tomb will make that scenario feel not like a brand new puzzle, but like something that's going to take a lot of skill and a lot of time and maybe just a touch of luck to survive and overcome. This game has so much going for it, and it's a tiny pocket-size game. If I was going to grab anything from my house in order to start teaching and sharing and exploring the world of RPGs, of D&D, of dungeon crawl games, I don't know that I can think of a smaller, more accessible, and more well-rounded gaming experience than The Dark Tomb. Sure, I could grab a quarter and a D&D book with some characters. I could use my own mind to paint a picture and a story, but that doesn't always work for some people. And yeah, I mean, we've been known to pack up Kingdom Death and Zombicide in our trunk of our car with lots of padding and blankets around it so we could arrive to a brand new location and pull out that behemoth of a game. But if I was going to play and travel and carry something with me, and I wanted something that gave me that full immersive experience at, and I can confidently say this now, every player count, Dark Tomb's going to be where it's at. The reality is there's a ton of people that are already excited, interested, and going to be supporting this game. The last campaign blew it out of the water, and I'm excited to see where this campaign goes. So the pressure's off of me. I don't need to sell you anything here, right? They're hiring me, they're sponsoring me to do a video so that you have more information, so you can see the game. So I remind you that it exists and encourage you to go explore it. But I'm not trying to talk you into buying it. Unless, of course, it's one of those games that you'd love, that you'd carry with you, that you'd get to the table and you'd play. If it fits that weird little niche in your own personal board game collection like it does in mine. I love dungeon crawls. I love stories. I love RPGs. I love D&D. I love all of these big box behemoth games, and I wish I had more time to play every single one of them. I've got enough time to play a game like this, though. And every now and then, this not only scratches the itch, but completely fulfills it. That 4-player gameplay took about an hour to teach, run, and fully immerse and experience. And I still remember stories from it that I could share right now, and that's the good part of an RPG. That's what you're looking for when you're talking about a campaign. A group of friends getting around the table, mixing together the elements that make life so charming and unique. A little bit of luck, a little bit of skill, a little bit of strategy, and certainly the items that you have on hand all come into play to create this narrative that we walk away still talking about, still sharing. So, that's a preview video. I'm going to get this processed and edited. I'm going to get the gameplay video finished and wrapped up, and I'm extremely excited to share them all with you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Whatever the case, though, whatever you do, remember to do the important thing. Always make sure you've got a pocket big enough, or a purse deep enough, or a backpack strong enough to carry at least 3 board games with you. And if you're not currently doing that, or you're not equipped for that type of task, luckily enough for you, these 3 will cover. They're big enough and heavy enough on their own to count. We'll see you next time. Bye.